Hello, friends. Welcome to another episode of Tales at Midnight. I've got 3 good doozies for you tonight. So sit back with your favorite drink, put your feet up, and let's get right into it. Story number 1. For years, my parents, grandmother, and I visited a very prominent temple in northeastern India. The deity, a goddess, is highly revered and has great historical significance too. My parents and grandmother are very religious. I, on the other hand, I'm spiritual, but I'm not very religious. To add to it, I was going through a very rough phase in life emotionally, and I really wasn't too enthusiastic about participating in anything, per se. When we entered the temple premises, there was an unbelievably long queue to enter the inner sanctum, where the altar is at the temple. It would have easily taken 2 hours for us to get to the front of the queue. I, being very not religious and mostly disinterested in the whole thing, refused to wait the 2 hours in the queue and instead told my parents they should go on ahead while I'll sit on the outside and I'll wait for them to return. Although my parents were very religious and really were looking forward to it, they chose not to go on without me, and they decided to leave, and they decided to just pray outside of the temple together and then leave. So we walked to the front of the temple, facing the entrance in the inner sanctum, and stood with our hands folded, praying, among hundreds of other folks. In that moment of prayer, I truly prayed with all my heart, since I was going through emotional turmoil. I wasn't asking for anything, but rather meditating, with folded hands, and feeling thankful for everything I have in my life. When we were nearly done praying, a police officer, since it's a very prominent temple, there is security and it's handled by the police themselves. This officer walked up to my parents, grandmother, and I, and said, "Follow me." We had no clue who this police officer was. We had never seen him before, since we had traveled there from another part of the country. We didn't know why he was asking us to follow him, and we didn't know why he came up to us amongst all these other hundreds of folks. So we followed him. He took us to the side of the temple, opened up a barricade, and proceeded to walk us straight into the inner sanctum, right to the front of the deity, all while a supermassive queue of folks waited on the other side for this opportunity. We really couldn't believe it. We were standing right in front of the deity. We prayed, received the flowers and offerings from the priest of the inner sanctum, and then we came out. This whole thing must have taken about 5 minutes at most. Once we were outside, we wanted to thank the police officer for taking us there. So we looked for him, but we couldn't find him anywhere on the temple premises. We walked up to other officers and asked for him, even described his appearance, but they said there wasn't anybody there matching that description. After the trip, we traveled back home, and within a week's time, multiple things in my life, both academically and emotionally, which were really causing me great torment over the past couple of years, all changed for the best. The whole experience was something out of this world. It almost felt like the deity herself sent somebody to bring us close to her and hear all our prayers, even if we didn't spell it out for her. That's an incident that will stay with me forever. Story number 2. When I was in my early 20s, I had to cross these 2 railway tracks, and it was a rainy day and I was wearing a raincoat, so my peripheral vision was blocked. I had to cross these 2 tracks to get to the other side. A train was passing through the track at the opposite end, and me, not being so bright, decided it's best to wait in the first track while the train was passing on the other track. The thing is, there was a train already stationary on the far end of the track I was waiting on. Since my peripheral vision was blocked by the raincoat and the raindrops falling on the raincoat, it canceled out my surrounding noise. I was not aware of anything happening around me. Suddenly, I could hear a voice coming from inside my head, which was practically yelling to look to the left. I looked to the train, which was stationary, was now reversing towards me. There was only a few meters between us. I immediately picked up my bicycle and moved from the track while being in shock and trying to deal with whatever just had transpired. I looked around to see if someone actually called me, but I was the only one there. I could have been dead. To this day, I believe it's a divine intervention. Story number 3. A few years ago, one night around 3 a.m., my wife and I were sleeping, and I felt myself slowly waking up from a really deep sleep. My eyes started lifting up, and as soon as they focused on the lamp on my dresser, it slid off and shattered on the floor. My wife and I both quickly sat up and looked at each other, horrified at the startling noise. We agreed we would clean it up in the morning, and went back to sleep. The next morning, when we woke up, the lamp was at the foot of the bed, about 5 feet from where it fell, completely intact, and not broken at all. We are still trying to make sense of it. Well, good friends, I guess that'll wrap it up for this week. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening. Hope you subscribe. Hope you hit the notification bell and do all the good things that'll keep us together and in touch with each other. And if you have a story that you'd like to share, do email it to me at talesatmidnightstories, all one word, @gmail.com. Until next week, have yourself a wonderful week, and I'll see you next Friday. Take care.